Hi, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Diane, your lactation consultant.
And this is Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder. And this week's episode is brought to you by Boob Butter. Boob Butter is the first lanolin, shea butter, and beeswax-free nipple cream, and it comes highly recommended by breastfeeders. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Fairhaven Health is introducing a new product, the Sage Personal Moisturizer and Lubricant. And we'll hear more about these products later. But right now, I want to tell you, first of all, before I hand it over to Diane, that you can go to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com, scroll down to the bottom, and sign up for our email list. And you can have episodes, all of our episodes, sent straight to your inbox so that you don't have to search us out. So if that's something that appeals to you, head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. You can also find on badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com our show notes, which has details of all of our episodes. And also, we now offer transcripts. So it's been a while. We just forgot to tell you.
Yeah.
It's maybe, I don't know, a couple months now.
I think so.
So all of the episodes are transcribed there next to the little play. You see the little CC. So you can push that and read it if you prefer. And okay, now Diane has our review of the week.
Yes, I have our review of the week. And this came from an email to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast at gmail.com. And this is from Gina. And she says, "Hey gals, I've been breastfeeding my little man for 8 months now. Woo. And it's been the best thing I've ever done, but also the most challenging. I love all things breastfeeding. I hope to get certified in lactation one day, and just discovered your podcast and really loving it. Thank you for helping support women in their breastfeeding journey, especially in the beginning when breastfeeding is just getting started. We are so fresh and vulnerable. It's such a breath of fresh air to hear women supporting women and building each other up with reassurance that we are strong, powerful, resilient badasses. I have shared your podcast with a few gal pals who are new to the breastfeeding game with brand new wee ones. Here's a picture of my milky guy, James, and she did add a picture. He's adorable. And she said, thank you, Gina. And that's amazing. First of all, the picture is adorable. I can't even take it. But we are out here to like totally build you guys up. You know, not because we're just like, oh yeah, you know, whatever, blah, 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 everybody should breastfeed. But we recognize that support is really, really important in this game. And sometimes you're not getting it from people that are right around you. So you can get it from us. We're going to support you. We have been there. We have totally been there. So go ahead, send us an email, send us a review if you want to on iTunes, whatever you need. And we would love to hear your story, love to hear what works for you. And thank you so much, Gina. And today's episode is actually going to like be another like we hear you, we feel you, we're here for you kind of episode.
Yeah, so the title, you're downloading it because you're like, oh my God, they're finally going to tell me how to night wean my child. So let me stop you right there. We are going to talk deeply and intensely about that. However, we are, this night weaning is more complicated than just here's what you do and then you'll be night weaned. We're going to talk about like what to expect and everything that goes into this. I want to tell you a lot of things. For example, night weaning, if you think that you're going to night wean and then you're going to get more sleep, we'll talk about why that's not true. It's not, we need to work really hard to normalize night waking because it is normal and it is healthy and it is developmentally appropriate. If your child is not sleeping through the night, that means that they're not ready to sleep through the night.
And it should be expected. Like our society shouldn't be like, oh, we're expecting your child to sleep. It should be, we're expecting your child to be awake.
Right. This is normal.
Yeah, this is normal.
So we're going to talk about all these things. Let's just start talking.
This is a hot topic. For sure.
It is. This is a really big topic. And the reason why that we wanted to do this is that people are constantly messaging me saying, my baby's waking up a million times a night. I don't know what to do. It's too much. I need sleep. I'm so tired. I have to get up. I need them to, I need to wean them. How can I wean them? And so, so this is a topic that we really want to like get out there and get all of the things because then I'm like, oh, here's a long essay that I have to reply to you in Instagram. And I think it would be just great to have this out there that we can share around and always have for people. So, again, we need to normalize night waking. Yeah. We're always talking in our culture. We are talking constantly about sleeping through the night and how we get our babies to sleep through the night and how do you do healthy sleep and all of this. And this is not based on child development, because child development is, they don't sleep through the night. And this is like, people will be like, well, my friend's baby slept through the night from 6 months. Okay. I don't know.
Every baby's different.
Every baby is different. And there's always that baby that slept through the night from the first day they came out sleeping and they're still sleeping. I don't have any answers for that. They're just, babies are different. And sometimes people are just, they forget.
Yeah.
They forget, you might talking to your mom. You slept through the night. She doesn't know. Your mom, they're like,
they don't remember. Yeah.
People don't remember, all of that chaos, of what it is to have a baby. And that's just why we keep having more, right? Because if we remembered,
we'd never have more. I know. I say that all the
more.
time. Never have more. We have families of one, everybody.
Exactly. So yeah. So, night waking is healthy. There's reasons for it. Your baby is not developmentally ready to sleep through the night. And that's because their brains are still growing and they need to be, they need to not be in a deep sleep. This is why they are just naturally wired to breastfeed more frequently. It's so that they stay in these higher levels or these less deep levels, shallower levels of sleep. And this is all to keep them alive.
Mm-hmm.
So
the other thing too that I want to mention quickly about it is, for some reason, the sleep and how Abby's saying it's developmental. That is a really important piece I want everybody to remember. It's developmental. It has nothing to do with breastfeeding.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with breastfeeding. And for some reason, everybody goes, oh, if you weren't breastfeeding, your baby would sleep. Oh, if you introduce solids, your baby will sleep. Oh, if you just give formula at night, your baby will sleep. This is not a breastfeeding problem. It's not a problem. Because your baby wakes up and wants to breastfeed doesn't mean that it's a breastfeeding problem.
Right. It's not a problem, first of all.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with breastfeeding. So say you successfully night wean, and we're going to I just jumping to the end. Say that you successfully night wean. Let's just say that. Your baby is still not going to sleep through the night. They're still not developmentally ready to sleep through the night. They're not going to. And you're going to, so sit with that for a second. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I want to make clear is that if you are thinking about, so the other thing that I think is important with just the nighttime parenting is the idea is exactly the same as the daytime. So we talked about in our boundaries episode, we talked about how this can be a step towards weaning, right? A lot of times people are like, oh, I can't stand it anymore. It's out of control. I've been breastfeeding on demand for 2.5 years and I can't take it anymore. And then we say, hey, this is what somebody said to me. They were like, hey, yeah, so some boundaries around breastfeeding really helped me around that time. And I was like, somewhat? Mm. First of all, boundaries was a new thing for me, period.
Yeah.
Like, as, just a woman and, how certain people are raised and how, putting up boundaries for myself was like new.
Yeah.
And so, around now I'm putting up boundaries. Now I'm going to start with my baby. It felt so horrible, and then, but we did that episode. So check out the boundaries episode, because this is where this is going to be hopefully a place where you can kind of shift your thinking on this. So some people will say, like, I just need my body back. I can't take it anymore. It feels out of control. And for me, that's how I felt. And when I was introduced to the idea of boundaries, and when I got when I got kind of, because it brings up a lot of feelings too, kind of saying no or things like that is it makes you feel guilty. You feel ashamed. You feel all of these things. But you can process this and work through this during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that at night nighttime is a whole different ballgame. Starting during the day with this idea of boundaries. And my point being is that a lot of times when people are like, I need to wean, I can't take it anymore. When you introduce the idea of boundaries, it's like, oh, okay, I can manage this. I wanted to make it, 2 years, or I wanted to naturally wean or whatever. And then when you feel more in control, a lot of times people are like, okay, I can manage this. I can get through this, and it makes it feel a little less out of control. Maybe even when you do get good at boundaries, you want to completely wean still. And that's fine. Creating those boundaries and doing that and getting good at that will help you to that goal too. So my suggestion is, before any of that, you start with the daytime. And the daytime boundaries are very straightforward. There's an episode on that. I have a blog post on it that you can quickly read the highlights on. It's like, things like, and again, this is the daytime. So there's things like, picking the least important breastfeeding session of the day and starting to limit the duration of that. So you sit with your kiddo, and we're talking about older kiddos. Okay. So you are not creating boundaries, and you are not, night weaning an infant.
No.
So we're talking about, even at like 1 or 2, I would say your baby is still a baby. I mean, every baby is different. Every child is different, so you have to kind of gauge whether you think you're ready. But like before 1 this is not what we're talking about. There are no boundaries before 1, really.
No.
And weaning, if you wean, certainly plenty of people wean at 6 months, but then you have to, you have to replace it with formula. You have to still feed them when they're waking up. You still have to be, responding that way. So we are talking about older kids, and we think with boundaries, I started doing that. I probably would have started the daytime boundaries with Jack maybe around like 2.5. I didn't know about it, so he was closer to 3, and he had a new brother, and so it was mass chaos. But with Exley, and then I started that probably around like 2 or 3, and I even started with a little nighttime boundaries with Exley, which I don't even remember what I did with Jack. I can't. But so that's, we can talk about that too. And I'm talking a lot, Diane. Tell me to shut up when you need to say something.
Oh, no, you're fine. I just interrupt when I want to say something. And then throw you totally off your game.
That's how,
that I feel guilty.
It helps me regroup, actually.
That's a different podcast.
So daytime boundaries look something like taking that, like I said, the least important breastfeeding session and you have to decide. You're like, what does least important mean? You figure it out. What does that mean? What do you think is the least important one? It's not going to be one at night. It's not going to be the one that goes to bed. It's not going to be the first one in the morning. I don't know, something in the afternoon, where you say, okay, we're gonna have, booby, whatever you call it. We called it booby, which is so silly, I know, but we're gonna do this for the ABCs, and then you sing the ABCs, and then we're done. And like, it's going to take them a little while to understand. And yes, they're going to get upset. And then you have to work through all of that. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you need to work on this, go to the boundaries episode. Mm-hmm. And you can go through all of that. Work from there towards, really comfortable with those boundaries. And then, so with nighttime is totally different. If your child is to naturally wean, as we call it, or is to wean on their own, decide when they're going to wean, child-led weaning, whatever we call it. The nighttime feedings are going to be the last ones that they let go of.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So if you are like, have never done any boundaries, you've never done any kind of, talking, like anything like that with your child, and you're just going to start with the nighttime, it's going to be really hard. And it's going to be really hard either way. Because this misconception, I think, that people are like, well, if I just wean at night, I'm going to get more sleep. Breastfeeding is keeping me up. Breastfeeding is not keeping you up. Your baby is keeping you up. Right.
Being a parent is keeping you up.
Yep. Having that baby and being the parent to that baby now is keeping you up. So there's nothing that we can do to make your baby sleep at night. And when you do things that keep your, when you try to overfeed them, or, you switch to formula because you've heard that it makes them sleep deeper. There's reasons why there are risks to these things. Because that is a risk. This is a reason why formula is a SIDS risk.
Right. That is not physiologically accommodating to your baby. No matter how much we want it to be, it's just not.
No, and so then your neighbor's baby slept through the night at 6 months, and now your baby's not. You can't make your baby be the next door neighbor's baby. It's just there's no way to do that. So you have your baby,
right? And
your baby needs different things.
So a lot of times, what we hear is, I don't want to sleep train, but I need to get some sleep. So like, this is an alternative to that. Nobody wants to sleep train. I don't think I've ever met a mom who's like, oh, I want to sleep train. I can't wait. I can't wait to sleep train. It's just not,
right.
Your baby needs you.
Yes. And let's talk more about that after a word from our sponsors, because, oh my God. It's already, oh my God. Okay. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. This week's episode is brought to you by Boob Butter. Do your nipples feel like they are burning? Put the burn out with Boob Butter. Boob Butter is the first lanolin, shea butter, and beeswax-free nipple cream and comes highly recommended by nursing moms. They can't get enough of it because it's not sticky or thick, and it's easy to apply, and most importantly, it hydrates and softens your nipples, making breastfeeding more successful and less painful for you. It's safe for babies and doesn't need to be washed off before nursing. The special recipe uses Kupwasu butter as a vegan alternative to lanolin to deeply hydrate the nipples, leaving them supple, soft, and intact. Now you can be CMO, Chief Milking Officer, without worrying about the painful cracks and dryness. Let Boob Butter help make bonding and connecting with your baby possible by keeping the unwanted soreness away. Head to boobandbaby.com, that's boobandbaby.com, and save 10% off with promo code BADASS10. And today's episode is also brought to you by Fairhaven Health. Fairhaven Health is excited to introduce Sage Personal Moisturizer and Lubricant, the newest product in their Vaginal Care and Comfort collection. Products designed to support vaginal health through every life stage. Sage is designed to replenish your natural lubrication and provide temporary relief from vaginal dryness. Vaginal dryness is most common in older women. There are a handful of other factors that lead to vaginal dryness: breastfeeding, some antidepressants, some fertility and cancer medications, stress, and even exercise. As with all their vaginal care products, Sage is made without estrogen, parabens, glycerol, or coating oils. Check out Sage and all the other vaginal care products at Fairhaven Health, that's FAIRHAVEN health.com, and use promo code BADASS for 15% off of your purchase. And all of our sponsors can be found in the show notes at badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com. Just head to this episode, scroll down, you'll find the direct links to the sponsors, their promo codes. You'll find our show notes, and you'll find breastfeeding resources, and you will also find information about scheduling your lactation consultation with Diane.
Absolutely.
And I have this week's
Shout
out of the week. Yes, thank you. And this shout out of the week is going to go to Black Mom's Blog. So Black Mom's Blog, you can find them on Instagram. You can also find them at blackmomsblog.com. But specifically on August 23rd, they'll be holding a nurse-a-thon, a virtual nurse-a-thon. And it's an educational celebration to encourage Black breastfeeding. And you're going to find speakers, there's 20 speakers, many that you've heard of. There's Vanessa Simmons from Normalized Breastfeeding, Blacktivist, Ashley Wright. These are people that are going to be speaking along with a whole bunch of other people during this nurse-a-thon. August 23rd, 11 to 5 p.m. Eastern. They'll be talking about strengthening the bond between mom and baby, inverted nipples and tongue ties, breastfeeding during teething, supplementing, and what to do, about early bonding. So check them out. You can register for this event at blackmomsblog.com. And you can also check them out on Instagram at blackmomsblog.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So back to Night Weaning. Do you have anything else to say? Well, I'm just blabbing here the whole time.
No. The only thing I want to make sure I say, which I'm sure you're going to say too, and I'll probably say at the end, just to enforce, is that when doing any kind of boundaries with your child, you need to really be consistent with these boundaries. It can't be like, okay, today I'm going to do it and enforce it, but tomorrow, gosh, he looks so cute in his little overalls, so I really just can't be an enforcer today. You have to enforce those boundaries and you have to be consistent with them. And that's the only way it works. And your child is going to push back because that's what they do.
They're not going to be happy about this. And that's okay. That's part of the whole thing of that's why I'm saying working on this during the day is going to help prepare you for the pushback at night, because they're going to be so upset, and you are going to have to be consistent, and you are going to have to push through that, and you're going to have to come to terms with your feelings about their feelings, which is a good preparation for the rest of your life.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because
that's an understatement.
Yeah. I mean, Jack got something in his eye yesterday, and it was 2:00 in the afternoon. And I think it just ended up, whatever it was, it scratched his eye because he says it still hurts today. But he cried. He's 9. He cried from 2:00 in the afternoon until he went to sleep at 9:00 at night. And I mean, he just was so upset and crying. And I was just as upset. I was cycling through feeling empathetic to feeling annoyed to feeling I can't handle your feelings anymore to this is just the beginning of your baby crying because you said no, you can't have booby right now. It's just their feelings are really hard to handle.
Yeah. And then
because we can barely handle our own.
It's just a lot going on.
Yeah. So I think daytime, practicing that during the daytime is going to help. And like Diane said, of course, being consistent. And I think we talk in depth about, dealing with our own feelings during that, in that daytime boundaries episode. Mm-hmm. But a little bit about again, back to normalizing night waking. The nighttime feedings can be very different than the daytime feedings too, just like the feedings themselves. The nighttime feedings are very important. So you're not, it's not, your baby's not just being annoying. They're not just oh my God, gosh, you ate all day. You're still hungry. No, you can't, I don't want you to, don't overeat, it's not about that. A lot of times for kids, especially toddlers, really busy toddlers, they're getting a lot of the milk at night because they're so distracted and they're so active during the day that a lot of the milk that they're getting is at night. And the night feedings are really important for your milk supply. Nighttime is very differently, experienced by them as well, just because of the way that we are wired to our, ancestors that were walking around with wild animals. Nighttime is like a time of, a needed extra security. And, of course, these things can be worked around if you really need to night wean, but, and you're still keeping your child close. But again, like what I said before, if you're going to naturally weaning, just keep in mind that if you were to do that, those night weaning sessions, the night nursing sessions would be the very last to go. Even though it's the first ones that we want to stop, they would be the last ones that your baby would stop.
And don't forget, your baby is waking for reasons that don't have anything to do with milk too. Like
Right.
it's so true that they are distracted and busy during the day that they're probably, they need to have those night feeds to kind of like, for those calories. But there's also situations and times where, your child did eat enough during the day. It has nothing to do with the food. It could be that they are teething and uncomfortable. It could be that something woke them up. It could be that they need a diaper change and now can't go back to sleep. Like, there's a lot of reasons why your baby wakes up during the night. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we wake up during the night. So try to think about it as like, okay, it's not just a food thing. And I don't know how many times we'd say that and it still just doesn't resonate with people, that this is not always a food thing. It's just your baby. It's just what they need at that moment.
Right. And then, so a lot of times people will be like, I can't take it anymore. I need to night wean. And so I'm stopping tonight. And then the child is like so upset.
I'm stopping
And then the
tonight.
whole house is
Tonight's
awake.
it.
Yeah. Like tonight's it. You're cut off. And then the child is so upset. And then the parents are so upset. And then the whole house is awake. And then they're just like, you're like, oh my God, I've created a monster. Like I've created this bad habit, because now they just won't go to sleep without nursing. Also, going to sleep nursing is normal.
Yeah.
And a totally natural thing for your baby to do. That's how your baby knows to go to sleep. So if you're going to, we talk about, I know Diana said this before in the weaning episodes. If you're going to wean, you need to replace it with something else. But you can't just give them a lollipop and expect them to be happy.
Especially in the middle of the night.
Right. Like that's not, the transition from breastfeeding to another way of being comforted to sleep takes time. And when Exley was a little bit older, I'd say he was probably like, I don't know, 3 or something. I started feeling that night stuff. I was just like, oh my God, I can't lay in this position any longer. And so, a lot after, working on some of this stuff during the day, at night, I started to say, okay, Exley, we're going to have Booby for 1 more minute, and then I'm going to put my arm around you. And it didn't go over well all the time, but eventually it did. And he would nurse for a minute, and then I would say, okay, I'm going to put my arm around you now. And he would unlatch and turn around. And I would put my arm around him, and he would wake up maybe a little while later, and we'd do the same thing. But I was getting some time. I was getting him to let go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helped. That was creating like a nighttime boundary for myself. So the other thing too, just to keep in mind is that if you're working, if you're sometimes when night weaning happens, weaning altogether happens. Because the nighttime nursing is so important to them that if they start to not be nursing at night, they might just wean altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Not to scare you or anything. I know people are like, oh, they're just telling us not to night wean. Look, I just don't want, I don't want you to be, I'm trying, we're trying to like bust some myths here, around all of this. Because time and time again, people say to me, how can I wean? I can't stand nursing and being awake at night anymore. And there's just a lot to unpack with that statement.
Yeah. And it's not an easy answer.
It's
either.
not. And you are not going to get more sleep. If you're associating the night waking with breastfeeding and you think that stopping breastfeeding is going to make you get more sleep, it's not, because they're still going to wake up.
Oh my God, I think I had less sleep.
That's the thing,
Honestly,
is that
yeah.
breastfeeding often keeps them quiet and, at least, a little bit settled. So, I don't know. Send me all the hate mail. That's fine. Argue with me. It's fine. I totally get it. People have different opinions about this. It's a hot topic.
And it is.
There's
and
no
really,
science books.
There's no good answer, and people really do want it. Like, and I have people that reach out to me too that are like, all right, this is it. What am I supposed to do? I can't take it. I've had enough, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you need to set up boundaries, but then they don't like that answer either, because that's hard to do.
Right.
So,
that's me. That you will be awake more during this transition of, trying to replace some of the night sessions with something else like back rubs or rocking or something like that is going to take time, and you're going to be awake more.
Right. This has nothing to do with breastfeeding. This is parenting. This is an infant thing. This is a baby thing. This is a child thing. And you're going to have a lot of nights after you night wean when your child is, getting older, that you're going to be awake with them. That's just how it is. You're just going to be awake with them. I don't care if they're 7, 8, 9 years old. There's going to be something happen where you're going to be awake with your child. It just happens.
Yeah, Jack is 9. I'd say he's been sleeping through the night without waking, at least without looking for me, since maybe like a year.
Mm-hmm.
Exley is 6. He still wakes up at night and wants to know where I am. He doesn't nurse anymore, but he wakes up.
Yeah.
Because he's 6. And I think, a lot of this, we think it's not normal when kids are not sleeping through the night very early, but actually normally and biologically and physiologically, they're not sleeping through the night until they are much older. And this is such a misconception in our culture. This is a big fat lie.
We don't sleep through the night.
No, I don't.
I heard the rain last night and it woke me up, and I was like, oh, you hear the rain? Like, sometimes you just roll over and you wake up because you're uncomfortable, whatever. Your baby does the same thing. Your toddler, your kid, like, they do the same thing.
Yeah. You go in and out of sleep stages. You go up and down. You go into deep sleep and then into light sleep, and you do this all night. Mm-hmm. You're not unconscious when you go to sleep. You shouldn't be.
It's kind of scary.
Maybe some people are.
Yeah.
But that's not, nursing all the time and nursing on demand since the time of birth is a lot. So I do suggest boundaries, because I think boundaries can help people reach their breastfeeding goals.
Absolutely.
Because they feel more in control, and you feel like more in control of your body. And they also, if you do that and you're like, nope, sorry, Abby, you're wrong, I still want to wean. Fine. Now you have your avenue. Now you have your path. Now you know how to do it once you get good at those boundaries. And I'm not saying
you've started.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've already started. And so there is Dr. Jay Gordon is a pediatrician who he's like a big breastfeeding guy, but he has this like gentle night weaning kind of method. And so I'm looking at it right here. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I can link this if you really want, if you want to look into this and start something like this. So it's things like, choosing a chunk of time at night that he suggests choosing a 7-hour stretch, whatever that is you choose. And then, so for the first 3 nights, if your child wakes during those hours that you've blocked out, he suggests comforting them, without feeding them, by rubbing their back or rocking them or anything like that. So, I worked with a sleep consultant, and, we were working with Exley, was awake a lot at night. And he was really having a hard time settling, which was not a feeding problem. It was just, Exley. And so she was like, try, before feeding him, try rubbing his back, try doing this. It never worked. And I'm not saying that this isn't going to work for you, but I'm just saying this is written very clearly. Like, things are not going to play out like this. It's going to take work and it's going to take time. You're going to go through that first night and you're going to be like, this doesn't work. And like maybe it won't work well for you. Maybe it works well for somebody else. So that's another thing to remember with this is that, it's just not going to go as smoothly, maybe, as you want it to. And then you only feed the child again once they've fallen back asleep without being fed, and then they wake up again. So it's like it sounds very confusing. It's much easier to follow when you're actually reading it. So you're repeating that for the first 3 nights. He says it's okay to nurse them if they get too upset. So he certainly takes that into consideration too, which I appreciate, because there are some obviously like cry it out or whatever, which is an option, right?
Right.
Like if,
people
are like,
yeah.
you just, cry it out. Yeah. This is the reason why we're not even like talking about that is because I don't promote that. I don't support that. No. I don't support it. So I'm not saying like, oh yeah, you go ahead and just cry it out and then they'll go back to sleep, which is true, but there's consequences. And I just think it's like mean.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's so much research around it if anybody wants it. But then the second 3 nights, you will then you move on to like stop offering the nursing and then you just do the back rubbing. So he has more of like straightforward steps for you if you want to do that. I'll link it so you can read it. And there's also there is a book called Nurses When the Sun Shines. Mm-hmm. And it's a really cute book. It's by, oh my God, I can't think of her name right now. Catherine, I don't know how to say her last name. Chevener or something. I'll link that too. I have this book. And so this is something, that you can, it's a kid's book. It's for kids. It's got a little thing in the back for you to read about like night weaning and gently night weaning. Talking to your child about it, about like how Booby's going to sleep now. And then how they wake up in the morning. And the book is very cute. My kids at 9 and 6 like still really like the book. They get very excited when it's daytime and nurse again, even though neither one of them nurse anymore. So it is cute. It is something that you can like work with your kid to kind of get used to the idea of not nursing at night. But again, they need to be older, and it's a process.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to say too, before we go, that this should not be something you're doing alone. And involve your partner with this. If you have a partner there with you at night, and this, you can send your partner, have your partner do the back rubbing, have your partner do some of the cuddling, and see if that, is going to be soothing for the baby or for your toddler or for your child until, you need to go ahead and nurse again while you're going through this process. Like I have a lot of people, sometimes I will suggest that to people, well, how about you send your partner in, or how about you have your partner try to engage with, and they go, oh no, my partner's sleeping. Like, this is a family thing.
Wake them up.
Yeah, this is a family thing. Sometimes we know that children respond differently to different parents. So if they see you, sometimes that's what they want, is to nurse, because they know that's their comfort and that's what they're getting, that's what they want to do with you. Sometimes if you have your partner go in, that will help. It just depends on your setup too. It depends on your, right, on how you have it set up. But
right. And to make all of this easier, I highly suggest bed sharing. And, send all the hate mail about bed sharing, but the science does not support that. Science supports the safety and, the reducing of risks with bed sharing, safe bed sharing, which you can find. We can also link that.
And you get more sleep.
And you get more sleep, and the baby is there. You're not, you can also, there's different options for like co-sleeping if you want to put, just the crib in the room, or you want to sidecar the crib to the bed, or just bring your baby in bed. Don't believe all the hype. There's bed sharing is not unsafe. Unsafe bed sharing and unsafe sleep spaces are unsafe. Mm-hmm. But this is a normal, natural occurrence throughout human existence. And it helps people get more sleep. So I think that I was going to say something else, but I don't remember what it was.
There's a lot to this topic.
There is a lot. You know, and you can, you know, tell us what you think, and you can, well, no, we're going to link a million things for you to read further about this.
But you know, maybe you're somebody who's been through it and you have some tips to share. We would love that. You know, we would love it if you want to send in what you did that worked well for you. And we will share that too, because, you know, you can't have enough helpful suggestions when it comes to a topic like this. It's kind of solidarity, you know, like we don't have the answer, the direct answer for you, or the quick answer, or the easy answer, but we've been there. We get it.
Yeah, I know what I was going to say now.
Okay.
So we got to the point. So I had Jack and Exley, and Exley was really little. He was like still a baby, under 1, I think. And I would be upstairs nursing Jack to sleep at night. And my husband would take Exley and like rock him in the rocking chair while I was busy. And then we would switch, you know, then my husband would bring me Exley and then I would lay with him to sleep. But Exley would already be asleep. Like he just got used to falling asleep in the rocking chair with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was just, you know, it's like a routine that we just fell into. And so you're going to, you know, you got to find these things that work. But it's true that, you know, they can, you know, they will kind of, you know, in the middle of the night, you need help from your partner, wake them up, you know, have them, you know, they can be participating too. And it does, you know, they will fall asleep.
Yeah. And what a great bonding time for your partner. Really, you know, like,
yeah,
that's a good thing. Everybody should be involved. Everybody should be awake.
Everybody should be awake.
If I'm awake, yeah. Everybody's awake.
Right. Yes.
So good luck. And we feel ya.
Yeah.
And
okay. See you
and
next
let us
week.
know. Yeah, let us know if there's anything else. And happy World Breastfeeding Month.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
Bye.
Bye.